think about it. Next time you're looking at a project, how can your project impact the rest of the community around? Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing right here in Quebec. Today, I want to take a little bit of time to give you an update on a big project that I've been working on. I know some of you have been following for over a year now on the development and everything that's happening, the project, what stage we're at in the development cycle, and I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on all that. So to do a little bit of a backtrack for those who are listening for the first time, about a little over a year ago, a year and a half ago, I bought 2 pieces of land in the city of Saint-Jérôme, north of Montreal, for a project that was already approved. We were able to take it to permits. We got our permits last year in May 2023, and then May 2023, and then started to plan for the construction. We found out that we had a little bit of an issue with some hydropower lines that need to be moved. We spoke to the city and discovered that there's a few changes in the zoning and that the project was going to be able to be changed. So we decided, as difficult of a decision as it was the right thing to do, to pause, to reassess the situation, to see what it is in terms of changes that we could do to the project to enhance it. And now thinking back of that difficult decision months ago but I'm taking tens of thousands of dollars of soft cost in terms of architectural design and engineering and just literally taking it and almost throwing out the window, that it was still the right thing to do because we could do more with this project. The city told us that we could add a few more floors, and you can just imagine how going from basically 3 floors and a mezzanine to 7 floors, how much of a difference that makes. So I just want to rewind a little bit throughout the process. We spoke to the city about this. We had numerous conversations, and I'm proud to say that the city has been cooperating on this, and they've made it clear how much they want this project. It was already approved once. We already got the building permit once. And so now is how can we really maximize the impact that this project is going to have for the city, because it is in the downtown core. It's across the street from the university. Got a federal building across. There's the river in the back. It's actually quite important as it will be part of the revitalization of the downtown core. So I want to spend a little bit of time about this because there is a few things that have happened that have helped me evolve in my development journey. We've had numerous obstacles and challenges since we started, okay? Whether it was with the fire just before closing and the cleanup that we needed to do, whether it's with decontamination, whether it's with the stability and how we're going to build the foundation for the project. Throughout this whole period and all this work, the city invited the city, as they're doing the work on redesigning the downtown core, invited some industry professionals to participate in workshops, to be able to give the input, share the obstacles that we have in development, because at the end of the day, the city sets the parameters, but it's investors and developers who are implementing them and who are doing these projects, and all these projects need to be coherent with one another. And one of my major takeaway from this workshop was that when the city develop, they have to look at 20, 30, 40 years ahead. And the difference in approach between the developers and the city. Let me explain. What I mean by that is that when the city takes the downtown core and says we need to redevelop, they really need to think ahead and say, what kind of activity that we want commercially? What kind of residential offer do we want? What is the connectivity? What are the attraction points? It may be a big new theater. It may be a big church. It may be other activities in the downtown core. I'm thinking also educational institutions, a CEGEP, a university, or even, let's say, a hospital. All those different hubs of activity need to be taken into account to create basically a community. And then also the connectivity of this hub, right? What are the main modes of transportation? Where is the train station? Where's the train going? How do people go to the train station? Anyways, all those different aspects. And one thing I really want to share with you that's important to me now is, well, it was important to me before, I just didn't realize because they voiced it really well, is that there's a difference between a real estate project and an urban development project. Let me explain. What that really means is that a real estate investor sees this on 3 to 5 years, because that's about the time it takes from basically first looking at the land to full stabilization and plus a little bit more once the property has been built. And they're developing, let's say, 100 units, 50 units, regardless, on one particular plot. Now, the city is looking at a 20 or 30 year horizon with multiple real estate projects that are going to be side by side. So they need to interact with one another and they need to be coherent. And the coherence is really what struck with me, because for a community to work, you need to have a balanced mix. And so how do you achieve this balanced mix between residential, between commercial activity, connectivity to the outside of this community? And then again, hospitals, universities, food stores, other commercial aspects that come into account, so that when you build a community, you want to make it as, one, sustainable as possible, encouraging healthy lifestyle and standards of living, but also as autonomous as possible. So it does make sense to put a lot of commercial activity right next to residential, is that you need to be careful with certain externalities, for example, such as noise, car traffic patterns, and so on and so forth. So the difference in perspective between the city and the individual developers need to be taken into account. And hence, this outlines the importance of a coherent plan coming from the city, so that individual developers can come together without necessarily being in touch, but develop the land in a way that 20 or 30 years from now, it creates a place where people want to be, a place where they want to live, a place where they want to work, a place where it's easy to commute to. And just thinking of the word commute, first thing is like, you think of people in their car on the highway. Well, buses, bikes, where do we park those bikes? How do people take their vehicle to go to the train station and go to Montreal instead of all driving on the 15? All those different aspects need to be taken into account, and hence the importance of urban planning. Urban planning at the, micro, intermediate, and macro level. Because it's one thing to look at a plot of land, or let alone a city block, but imagine when you have to do this over a whole city, how exciting it is to be planning for the future. And I've realized more and more over time how excited I get by this. And in speaking with my wife, she made me realize that coming from an island in the Caribbean, I've always been very community focused. And this community focus has, in a way, come back to me in wanting to build communities. I mean, I ended up getting into real estate. First property was a fiveplex. And then, already back then I was thinking, oh my God, it's a triplex and a duplex. There's a courtyard in between. What kind of a community can we build over there? And it's evolved with each different project to a point now where we're going to be able to do, hey, what can we do to help the university and the hospital? What can we do to help residents? What can we do to bring more healthy food choices in the downtown core? Because the downtown's been identified as a food desert. So you might be able to find greasy fries with gravy, but that's not necessarily what the population needs. The population needs to be able to have access to affordable food, whether it's food stores, whether it's healthier choices in restaurants, and everything that comes from that. And I find it very exciting to be working on those topics and thinking about all those questions, because in the end, that's what creates the tissue of a city, of a town, of a downtown. It's property by property, block after block, making sure that each piece is coherent with its direct neighbor and all of the neighborhood and the rest of town. And it's fascinating. And I hope that through this explanation and story that I just shared, you can understand a little bit more about some of the challenges that we face and a little bit more about some of the excitement that we get when we get to achieve that. So going back to the project, right now, we're actually going back to design. We're back in architecture, even though we did about already 9 months of it, to really optimize the project. And the city's made it clear that on the ground floor, they want commercial space. They want commerce de proximité. So we've asked them, well, do you have a list? What does that mean for you? And they actually gave us some reports on what kind of businesses do they want to see over there to rebuild the social fabric that makes a city unique and that creates foot traffic, that minimizes car traffic and everything that goes with it. I am so proud to be thinking about these questions because it's fun, it's interesting. And where I want to conclude is that I mentioned at the beginning, the impact that this property, this development will have. More and more, I think about ROI. And I think of ROI, as everybody knows it, return on investment. How much is my money making on this project? Now, I think of ROI in a very different way. ROI for me is return on impact. And I say this again, return on impact, not investment. If the impact is the correct one, the return on my money will be even bigger because I've created a coherent community. I've created a coherent project where people want to live. It will create demand. It will be attracting the clientele that we need. And so the impact isn't for me. It's for the community, inside the community, and the people all around it. So the city, the students, the hospital that we're going to be able to give some housing to, international students that can come and get an education here and hopefully stay. It's for the neighbors that are going to be able to benefit maybe some of the amenities and some of the businesses that are going to be in the building. It's everything else around. And that's really what matters to me. And I hope that one of the major takeaway you take from this conversation today, or rather this monologue, is that you've got to think about the impact of your project almost ahead of the return on your money, because it's been proven, and there's countless examples of this here in Quebec and internationally. And I'm thinking of, Ray Jr. and Mirabel, that he's created a community. The return on investment has been phenomenal because he's been able to think about the impact that he's having for the community. So now on this note, think about it. Next time you're looking at a project, how can your project impact the rest of the community around? This was fun. Thank you very much. Share this episode with a friend. Stay tuned, subscribe to the show, and I'll talk to you next week. And in the meantime, as usual, research your market, make some offer, get educated, and I'll talk to you next Friday. Thank you.